Welcome to Thrive Radio. I'm your host, Amy Montgomery, entrepreneur and digital marketing agency owner. Today, my guest is Federico Malatesta. He is executive and transformational coach and founder of Absaroka Horses. He is helping executives find greater alignment in their businesses and personal lives. Federico, welcome to the podcast.
My pleasure to be here, Amy.
So tell us your journey of starting your coaching business and how did you go from working in oil and gas to coaching with horses?
Well, it's a long story. I'll try to make it as short as I can. So when I had a great job, great career in oil and gas, I was there for 15 years. And throughout this time, I had very, very good coaches, especially one in particular. And I really enjoy working with them, understand their insight and the different point of view on the things I was doing. And when my company was bought by a third party, I decided not to remain in my job. The job would have been great, the money would have been superb, but I didn't like the culture of the company. And I always put my purpose before anything else. And so it was not an easy decision, but I thought the long term I would benefit from that. So I exited the company. I had a couple of businesses I was running on the side, so I was busy with that. And then one day I was laying on the sofa and watching a documentary. I discovered this amazing horseman. His name is Pat Brannaman, who works with horses in a very special way. He is actually the character on which the book and the movie Horse Whisperer is based on.
Okay.
And so I was transfigured. I said, I've never seen anything like this. I always liked horses, never really went on a horse, but I decided to pack my bags and move for 3 weeks to Montana, and I was hooked. And over a period of time, I had an idea about transitioning to fully owned businesses, not to work for somebody else. And coaching was always in the back of my mind. It was never a conscious decision in the beginning, but it kind of slowly came up. And working with horses, so we can talk about it how, just gave me a very different insight on interaction with other beings and the way we portray ourselves, the stories we have in our head, to disconnect between what we think and how we act. And so slowly was a natural progression.
In walking through your journey, what are you grateful for?
I'm really grateful for having had the opportunity that I did. Not everyone gets the same opportunity. I was lucky that I could time my various career moves over time. And meeting horses in the way that I did, having had the teacher that I had, this was a unique experience. You know, like everything else, if you start with the wrong teacher, your journey is half ruined. You don't really see the possibilities. And I had amazing teachers, so I'm very grateful for that.
What are some of the top challenges that leaders face that you address with your program?
I would say there are two main challenges. The first one is that high-powered executive who have been working nonstop for 20, 30 years, they somehow live to work. Work becomes everything. And they lose purpose in life. You know, Gustav Jung said that, we have different stages of our life. And the first big stage of our adulthood is when we really build ourselves. So we start working, we create a family, we need to a very narrow focus. That's the only way we survive in this world. And so we put aside a lot of different aspects of ourselves because somehow get in the way. The brain wants clarity, wants simplicity. And that's the first part of our life. But at some point, when we're settled in, we start to question some of this. But is this really how I am? I really would like to do something else, but how do I get out of this? How do I keep my financial status, my social status? Is that really matter to me? And so we start asking other questions. And the coach can be very helpful to give, especially somebody in a very powerful position, a very honest feedback. So I think that's the first, thinking about the purpose in life and what really matters, in addition to work. The second aspect is really communication, because when you work with horses don't lie. They have no false persona. They have no social behavior. They just behave as they are. And so if they don't like the way you behave, they'll let you know. If you interact with somebody, they can be polite. They say, oh, yes, it's a wonderful idea, even if they think otherwise. Horses don't do that. And so you start to see the gap between what you think you're expressing and what the horse thinks you are expressing. And often there's a huge gap. Often you notice that you don't notice things. And you ask, why the horse doing this? Why am I doing that? That's not what I wanted to do. And then from there is a journey to say, well, let's look at other aspects of your life where this may be happening without you noticing. A lot of our behavior is unconscious. It's based on a certain stories we make in our head. They're not reality. It's our stories. We all do that, myself included. And the horses allow you to revisit those stories. And you suddenly are in charge. You become the author of the story and you say, well, is that really true? I think this, but what is behind this story and how can I help? If there is a gap, bridge that gap.
So how do you help people realize what life should actually feel like, especially when it comes to what you were just saying about how we aren't necessarily aware of how we should be feeling or what we're actually putting out into the world all the time? How do you get people in touch with that?
Well, see, one very important thing to stress all the time is that a coach doesn't tell people things, doesn't tell clients things. A coach is there to listen and to allow for possibility. So, each life is different. Each person find their own purpose, discover their own purpose. A coach is almost like a guide along a journey. It's very interesting, actually, in the word guru comes from the word guide. And so it's obviously, there's a lot of translation when you go from Eastern religion to Western world. There's a lot of mistranslation. And the coach is sometimes a guide. And that was really helpful for a client is to ask somebody that listens and ask questions and clarify things. We believe that the wisdom is in the client, is not in us. We just allow for that to happen. It's very difficult in this world to have really honest feedback, really a safe space where people can express themselves, show their fears. And that what the coach does, is allow for possibility.
So when getting clarity over dreams in life, how do horses help with that?
Well, all horses help you bridge that gap. It's important to stress that, the equine coaching and equus, which is a particular type of equine coaching that I do, is only one tool in your toolbox. But when you use it's a very powerful catalyst of what real communication and authentic communication is like. And so it brings out a lot of questions and then allows for the coach to pick up the discussion. Horses can pick up a difference in the status between what you say and what you do very quickly, faster than we can as humans. And that allows for a very powerful conversation. Yeah.
When you say we need to put our purpose before our goals, what does that look like?
You see, goals without purpose don't bring you very far. We always talk about, our ideals, our needs, and our wants. If there is no alignment between our ideal or who we think we are in life and what we need for our happy life, or for a joyous life, and we confuse needs with wants, which what we want in the short term, the goals might be the wrong goal. The goal might be, I'm going to buy the most beautiful BMW ever. That's great short term. And the first day you're very happy, you got a new shiny car and everything is awesome. And after a couple of weeks, the car is there in the garage and it starts to get a little dirty and it's not exciting anymore. And after a year, you sell it because you have a newer model to want. That does not improve your quality of life. It's nothing bad in having a nice car. But long term, if the goals are not aligned with your purpose, they don't bring you anywhere. They actually can bring you in the wrong direction. I think if you want to find a real sense of having something really worth doing in life, the focus has to be on purpose and ideals first.
That's really good. So have you seen leaders overcome or shift in your program with horses? Can you share some of your client success stories?
Yes, I'm very happy to. I think that the most powerful example of working with horses and executives has been one executive who had a very strong personality, what one would call a type A personality. And he was very convinced of what he was saying was the absolute truth. And before the session, we would talk about there is a member in my team that really doesn't understand me. I'm very clear and it doesn't get it. And I don't know what to do. And this other person, he always doesn't behave in a certain way, etc. And then we put in the round pens with the horse. The horse was very confused because the thought that what the executive was thinking he was doing was not coming through his body, was not coming through his feelings. The emotions got in the way, and the horse was incredibly confused. And he started to realize, okay, maybe I'm not as clear as I thought I was. Maybe I'm not as fair as I thought I was. And so he started reconsidering a number of ways he was approaching his team, his boss, and some of the people working in the same group. And the transformation within one session was incredible. Now, it took quite some time afterwards to make sure that transformation stays. People often confuse change and transformation. Change is what happens. It can go in any direction. It can be good one day or bad the other day. What you're really looking in a coaching relationship is a transformation, something that changes, stays that way. And that sometimes is a slow process and need a lot of reinforcement. You know, I was talking with my mentor coach the other day, and we were talking about the work that it takes to maintain success, not only to achieve it, but to maintain. And it's a difficult job, and it takes time and effort. But something like working with a horse, even once, can be this catalyst for change, which is essential.
Love that. So if you were able to give yourself one piece of advice when you first started out, what would it be?
That's a good question. And there are many things that one can always do better. But I by nature, I'm an analyst. I like to do a lot of research before doing something. I think that this journey has taught me how much of our thoughts and decisions comes from action first. Sometimes we just have to start doing things, and that will generate motivation, that will generate energy and generate excitement. It's not only the other way. Actually, often it's not. So I think that very good lessons for me on this journey.
That's great. So Federico, if there is somebody that is listening and they would love to work with you, what's the best way to contact you?
So the best way to contact me is on my email. I have a new website just coming up, which is with my full name. So it's www.federicomalatesta.com or through my horses website, which is absarokahorses.com.
Perfect. I'll put all those links down below as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your expertise.
Well, thanks to you. I really appreciate the opportunity. It was nice talking to you.
Yes, definitely. And if you're listening, you want more information about this podcast or upcoming shows, you can visit acalltothrive.com. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful week.